Here we are. We're doing the thing, as noted.
We're doing
Super casual, as I told you beforehand. We're having a chin wag. We're going to just see where this goes. But to start things off, for people who don't know you, if you could introduce yourself, let's do name, pronouns, and then I always like to start with like a aggressive question. So let's go with what's like a concept or a mantra or like a thought that's really been resonating with you recently?
Hi, my name is Ezra Michel, and my pronouns are he, they. And I think it's a little embarrassing that this is the thought, but I'm just gonna say it. It doesn't even fucking matter. That's the thought.
Preach.
That just
I
like
like that.
propels me through my life in the most beautiful and elegant way. It's just beautiful. It's so relaxing. I love it.
Nihilism as a positive force.
Oh, 100%. It's more absurdism, I think. It's
Okay.
just like, who even, like, what's happening? And I think, like, as an ex-stoner and, like, just like silly, self-professed silly man, I think, like, that really encapsulates my foundation.
But I remember having a moment pretty early on in both hand where like it's felt so serious and so high stakes. And I was talking to kind of like a mentor friend who's worked in fashion for a long time and is now like the president of a brand out in New York that similarly kind of like does basics or whatever. And he said this thing that was like very simple, but I still think about to this day. He's like, you know, at the end of the day, we're selling t-shirts. And if we don't do it, someone else will. And I was like, yes. I mean, slight difference because like, yes, but like there are not that many options for trans consumers. And so the whole like someone else will, but it's like, but somebody else will is the thing. Like it's
Yeah.
just
Might
not that
take a
serious.
while. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and just like in the scheme of things, you have to balance feeling really engaged with and excited about what gets you out of bed every day and like what is meaningful to you, and then also, yeah, just like holding it lightly. I like that. It's a good mantra. Speaking of like holding things lightly and you being a silly person, when I was Googling you before this, I feel like a word that comes up with you a lot that I think you and I both riff on is just like multidisciplinary, like multitude of things. And I don't know about you. I feel like we've kind of ranted adjacent to this, but not like specific to this. I feel like one of the like big intellectual incoherences of the moment we're living through is that we've been fighting for diversity, but we've somehow like cornered ourselves into this position that's like very singular and that actually like prizes the boxes that you were in rather than the multiplicity of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know exactly what my question is, but just like what do you like how do you think about the word multi and like how does it play a role in your life?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like as a kid who had like super major undiagnosed ADHD, like multi is just um the product of living that life, like of being like scattered and like hyperactive and not knowing how to focus and not figuring out like what tools to use to just stay focused on one thing. And so like I see multi as a beautiful thing because as I've aged, now I'm 28, like I've spent, I've like gone through cycles of being obsessed with multiple things over and over and over again. And so spending a little time on a bunch of things, at one point in my life, I was just an amateur at a lot of stuff. And I was kind of bad at a lot of stuff. And then I got kind of good at a lot of stuff. And then now I'm like, starting to see a new phase of that, which is that like I'm able to sustain myself on the things that I was once using as a coping mechanism or a way to escape like what I should be doing, you know? Like music, making shirts, making videos, being a silly guy, like having existential like thoughts and questions and sharing them with people and having like weird conversations. Doing hair was also another thing. Like I would do that in my dorm room to like skip class and stuff. Like, so like all these things that were once really like considered my like distractions are now like my main source of income.
That's a great line. Let me just note that down. That were once
Yeah.
my distractions are now my main source of income. I feel like it's a
Yeah.
very I don't know. I feel like a lot of people listening to this will find that incredibly hopeful and inspirational.
Cool.
What is your, I mean, presumably you also wouldn't say like, oh, it's just easy, just do it over and over and you'll like inherently be successful at it. But I guess like as a mode of being in the world, I don't know. If somebody identifies with that way of being, what would be your best advice for them of like how they can nurture that in kind of like a constructive, meaningful way?
Yeah, I think I spent a lot of time um questioning like my um my vision and like my like inner guidance and being like, well, because like I had so much external influence telling me that there was something wrong with the way that I walked through the world and in so many ways, you know, not just the trans stuff, but it was like, I mean, I was a bad student. I was like, I was like a distractible, you know, talkative kid. And so like everywhere I turned, there were like authority figures being like, you're doing it wrong. What are you doing? And I think I was really blessed with like a sense of confidence and like self-assuredness that like I don't know where it came from, to be honest. Maybe my mom was really nice to me. She was really supportive of me. But for the, like I just feel like I had like a sense of like I'm got this. Like I know what I'm doing, even though I really didn't. And I feel like um that is what carried me through all of it was like just me being like I'm certain that like I have something here. I don't know what it is, but I feel really special. Was like the comic relief in my family of serious people. And like I was always like I would be an incredible family member if I had a different family that could appreciate me and like really understand that like I am like exceptional, like I'm so funny
Mm,
and so charming and so witty, but nobody around me is smart enough to understand that. And so like my teachers were all obsessed with me even though I didn't turn in my homework. They were still they loved me.
mm,
And adults like my friends' parents, they wanted me over. Like they wanted me to hang out in the kitchen while they drank wine and
mhm,
like so like I had adults telling me that I was really interesting and special, but my like immediate family just didn't appreciate that at all. So I
mm.
was happy, but I was around very, very sad, depressed people.
Where did you grow up?
Santa Barbara.
Okay. Okay, so lightheartedness and playfulness. This is something that like you've brought up that you and I know you and I have talked about. I guess without me rambling or like already framing it in the way that you and I have discussed, maybe you could just talk about what it means to you to be, kind of to identify as a lighthearted person, like especially in your gender identity and expression and why you think that's so important.
Yeah. I mean, I talk about being a kid and how like confident and happy I was, you know, but then like eventually the world did get to me and specifically like when I went through puberty, I was like a late puberty person. I was like almost 16 when all that happened. So I thought I had kind of like avoided it, you know, in some like delusional thinking type way. And then when it, like the world shattered around me and I like started looking like a woman or whatever, uh, like things did get serious. You know, life got serious. I got really like, um, you know, I just like gravitated towards like substances to like numb everything out. And um, and then when I got sober at 22, like I used my inner child and like young happy-go-lucky lighthearted Ezra to guide me back to myself in a very real way. Like it was I was channeling him because he existed already. Like I have memories as him. And so like he sort of like helped me navigate through all the muck and the like heaviness that I had sort of like picked up along the way to get to adulthood, which I believe like was like necessary, you know, like I couldn't have done it any other way because maybe the heaviness like kept me on the ground. So like I'm grateful that like I went through all of it. But yeah, like the lightheartedness was like the gift at the end of all of it. And for me, like that's sort of carried me through sobriety. It's carried me through like all of the hard times of, you know, living really, really broke in LA, trying to figure stuff out. And yeah, it's like it's my saving grace.
And what do you think, like, is there a space for lightheartedness around gender right now, like more culturally? Like, where do you find it, or where do you feel like it's lacking? Like, where is it for you, kind of like almost this like philosophical, like ethical intervention you're staging?
Yeah, I think that I'm maybe a little bit what's the word? Naive, and I protect that a lot. But I really believe that like we do create our own worlds and our own realities, and we have to start on a small scale in order to like grow those worlds. And the world that I'm trying to build for myself in my own little bubble and that I have been working on for a long time is that like is this world where like gender is kind of irrelevant or like something to celebrate and something to like just be like chill about, you know? Like it's just fun. We're fluid creatures. Like none of this really matters. Like it's fun to describe things with words though. So like, you know, having language is great, but like maybe we don't need to like put so much stock in these words as like um you know, like we don't need to like make words more powerful than they are, you know? And so like me calling myself a man is like always said with a sort of like like LOL, like whatever. Like who cares? And so like maybe that's not the world that we live in, and it's maybe incredibly like privileged of me to be able to live in that world, you know? Um, but like I want to,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people want that too. And so I'm just gonna like exist there, you know,
Yeah.
before it's even real, maybe on the
Yeah.
outside,
Yeah.
I
I
guess.
mean, I think whether you want to call it activism or just like our the daily grace and courage that goes into like waking up and being a part of the world that we want to exist. I mean, it just like takes so many different forms. And I think um choosing joy right now and choosing playfulness is um a more rare choice than it should be. So I like really applaud those who are choosing it.
You're back.
I'm back. That's like literally never happened here. The internet cut out, but hopefully
Weird.
we're all good. I was pontificating about joy. Where did I cut out before joy? I think basically all that I really wanted to say is that choosing joy and choosing lightheartedness, I think is a very courageous thing and something that not enough people are doing. And that like there's so many different battles to be fought, and that's not the only battle. But I also think like even you saying like maybe it's really privileged of you, sometimes in response to that, and so what? Things are also won by people operating out of the position that they are in and making the world a better
Right.
place. And I think making the world more joyful and making that bubble of like, let's move gender towards a world in which this is not some terrifying boogeyman under the bed. Like, great, sign me up. That's the world I want to be a part of.
You saying that you make a really good point about the privilege thing. When I like really ruminate on really think about how much privilege I have at this time in my life, it's overflowing. It's a lot, you know. I have a platform. I like walk through the world as a man. I've had access to gender affirming care. I don't have boobs anymore. There's just so much that I've got. And when I really consider all of that and think about how I can like share it, expressing joy and expressing like the comfort that I have in my skin as like something to share is one of the best ways to share the privilege, I think, because it's something that like I didn't grow up knowing was possible. You know, and it's like it's a level of hope that like I really didn't have or know that it existed. And so being able to just display it and be like, look, I'm fine. Like things are good. It's okay. Things were bad and then now they're good. That's exceptional in my opinion. That would have helped
100%.
me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know for you, for me growing up, I'm a little bit older than you, so it's a slightly different generation. But like growing up I either had no images of being trans or they were like, boys don't cry. Horrific,
Oh,
terrible
Hillary.
images of what this is. And it's like, I don't know, striking that balance today of on the one hand recognizing the horrifying things that are still happening today and all the work that needs to be done. And on the other hand, being like, that can't be the only narrative here. The world is, we're not going to get to where we want to go if that is the only way that we are talking about or characterizing or portraying trans people. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think we're on the same page here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like adopting like a little bit of delusion, just enough to be like
Just enough delusion. I like that.
just enough, just something to like get us through the day. Like, I don't have drugs anymore, so I kind of need to be a little nuts in order to like raw dog life like I'm doing, you know? It's like it's a
You were
lot.
just dropping the most incredible one-liners. I need to be a little nuts to raw dog life the way I'm doing it.
It's true.
Yeah.
Like things are challenging. I'm not just an alcoholic and an addict, but I also like I have like major mental health stuff going on too. Like I
Mm.
was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder the same day I got diagnosed with ADHD
Mm.
in adulthood. And
Happy Tuesday.
thank you. Yes, I was just give it to me. But then when that happened, I was like, okay, like at least I have something to Google instead of just being like, why I want die. Now I
Yeah.
know. And I feel like that also added to the lightheartedness of it all, just being able to like, just like add like having language to explain the stuff that's going on in my head and just like my body and whatever, it does create so much more space to navigate it, you know, like
Mhm.
which is why like my brand, like Pussy Boy apparel has been so liberating for me because it's a word that used to be like really triggering for me.
Mm.
When I would hear it, I hated it. It hurt my body. It hurt my head.
Mm.
And then like I'm okay, I've never actually told anyone this, but like it really started from this space of okay, so like Kesha.
I'm so ready for this. Take me wherever you're going to take me.
Kesha has this song called Grow a Pair. And the first line in it or whatever is like, but I just can't date a dude with a badge. And like I was listening to it on the run and I was just like, she's not talking about trans men. I know that. But like she's also not talking about us. She just doesn't know she like you know, like it's just like it's like she called us
Yeah.
out even when she didn't even know what she was saying, really, you know? And that is literally like where all of this stuff stemmed from for me.
Call out to
Was just being
Kesha.
like,
Formally
yeah,
apologize to Ezra.
but it was just
Or
like, okay,
not, like inspiration. It launched something.
yeah. But it was just like, okay, like the world really doesn't know, you know, like really does not. And how can I like draw more attention to our community? And it's like the shock value of Pussy Boy is calculated. It's
Hmm.
not just some like dumb thing that I came up with. It's on purpose because like it's what like people immediately think of when they realize like what my anatomy is. They're like, "Okay, so what's your junk?" Like obviously like that's like a thing, you know, like everyone knows in our community that that's the question we get. And it's
Hmm.
like, well, what if we lead with that? Then what happens after that? What happens after they already know? They're going to be forced to get to know us because they're not stumped by this one elephant in the room that they no longer feel like emboldened to ask anymore as much. But at least back in the day when they did feel emboldened to ask that question more, when cis people would be like, "So do you have a penis or what?" Because it was like less culturally known to not ask those questions. At least back then, like they were like bull in a china shop, like just like asking shit just because they were genuinely curious. And now they're a little less like emboldened because they're afraid to say the wrong thing. So then they avoid us at all cost. And it's like I actually kind of preferred when they were messier because they're less afraid of us. And I can handle being asked what my junk is at this point
Mm.
in my life. Maybe not back in the day, but like, I mean, I still did it back in the day. I still answered the questions or was like, I don't want to answer that,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm. Yeah. It's a really interesting point.
That was a rant.
Well, no, it was such a good rant. I'm trying to decide which avenue I want to go down on it. One thing that came up, I don't know if you and I have talked about this, but like I feel like we've been circling language and how it's not important, but how it also can't be everything in this conversation. And I feel like the best analogy I've come up with over the years is I think about language as like those unstable stepping stones in a river where it's like they are useful. They will transport you to the other side, but like you have to keep the momentum going. You can't like stop or you will like wobble and fall in. And if you fixate on them, you could win a bunch of battles and lose the war. And so it's this really delicate balance where it's like, on the one hand, I don't lean into the like, oh, it's like totally made up and culturally constructed and none of it matters. And I shouldn't be offended by whatever pronouns people using the right pronouns for me, like affects my quality of life. Like, it does matter. And then on the other hand, if it becomes everything, it's so precarious. And like, yeah, you like tumble into the river and get washed away. And that's not what we want either.
That's a really great analogy. I got chills
Hmm.
thinking about it.
We have such good
Um,
conversations. I like that maybe we just need to have like a full-time podcast and just like chat about gender once a month.
Honestly, yeah. I've been thinking about like the potential of having a podcast and like just having like weird conversations with transsexuals
Hmm. I
just to
mean,
just to
just to have a
chat.
good old chin wag, just have a chat.
Yeah,
Love it. Well,
I
sign
love a
me up.
chin
I'm there.
wag.
On a less serious note, but related to that, I feel like we've mentioned numerous things that you do, but for people who are listening to this who like don't somehow have not come across you, what are all the things that you do? Could you just give us a list?
Yeah. So like professionally, I am a hairdresser. Um, and like that was like my like one at one point. So I'm a hairdresser and I do hair out of my backyard in my little like shop that I made myself here in Laurel Canyon. And then now like I screen print, so I'm a screen print artist. And then I sell clothes. Um, and then I mean I'm a musician, so I'm in a band called the Pussy Boys, and I sing and play guitar, and I write the songs. Um, and then I act, and I was the first trans masculine character to ever, or like actor to ever portray a trans mask person on a Telemundo telenovela
Hell,
series.
I
So
haven't
that's
seen that.
fun.
What series is that?
It's called Cien Días para Enamorarnos,
I'm gonna
which
get
is
you
a
to text me that
mouthful.
afterwards.
And I was just like I like had like maybe 4 episodes, but yeah, I'm not like perfectly fluent in Spanish, but like I got the role, so whatever. And what else do I do? And then yeah, like I'm a thinker. I'm like a fake dumb person. I cosplay as a dumb boy, but the truth is I'm really smart.
I don't even know how my community manager is going to decide what single lines from this to draw out as like quotes on social. There's so many incredible single lines in this.
Good luck.
Good luck. Have fun, Anthony.
Oh, and then I also am like a handy person. I worked as a plumber for 2 years, so I'm really handy. That's another thing. That's it.
That's
We're
good.
done.
I worked as a carpenter for a while, and it was like one of the most existentially calming things I have ever done.
That's
Plumbing, I
so
feel like, is next
cool.
level, though. A lot of people can like mess around with wood. Plumbing's next level.
I think carpentry sounds so cool. I've always wanted to like learn more about woodworking.
Maybe we
It takes so
start
much
a
precision
trans construction company that does a podcast while we're building houses
in making shirts.
and making shirts with music in the background and
Sure.
Telemundo videoing it all.
I only act in Spanish.
I love
Yeah.
it. Um,
Yeah. What were you gonna say?
what I was gonna ask, I feel like you kind of talked about this with your childhood and ADHD, but I do think it like bears a section on its own. Like, given all these different things that you do, what does balance look like for you? Or is balance not even something that you're really aiming for? Or, but like, or maybe more accurately, like, how do you decide where to put your energy?
That's a great question. I have a really strong connection to my inner guidance, as I kind of mentioned before. And that's the thing that like, maybe people can call God sometimes, or like whatever, the universe. Like it's the thing that like exists when I'm at my most quiet and still. And I think like, literally having conversation with that throughout my entire day is what like guides me through my life. And so like when I really like am at a loss for what to prioritize as an ADHD mess, like I have to like kind of tune in and like really ask my inner guidance what the hell to do next. And really truly what I believe is that that inner guidance is like the truest form of who I am. It's like Ezra beyond this body, just my consciousness as the thing that's propelling me forward. And so like, that seems to have all the answers to what I need to do throughout the day. And usually my life ends up working out when I
Mm.
listen to that. And so it's literally like, you need water, bitch. Go have some water. And I'm like, oh, okay. And like, it's like simple stuff. It's really
Yeah.
simple stuff. Because I have ADHD, I can go a whole day without peeing or without eating or without drinking water
Mm.
or like, you know, an entire week without calling my mom, you know, like it really matters
Yeah.
that I like listen and respond to this thing.
Okay, so
Also, Matt.
meds. There we go. That and meds. Um, okay, one question I ask everyone that I talk to, it could be to do with clothing, but it definitely doesn't have to be. People tend to associate that with me because of both. But tell me, um, just like tell me a story about an experience of gender joy for you.
Gender joy.
Yeah,
There's so many.
that's a good problem to have. I can tell
Mm,
you about the last one while you think if you want. It was so funny. I laughed so hard. So they were like, so recently I went to go get a haircut and the hairdresser did a terrible job and they like completely messed up and like basically like gave me bald spots slash like widow's peak. And I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. Where is this going? And they're like, and then I was at the gym and I was like lifting 10-pound weights and like drinking a chocolate milk. And I like looked at myself in the mirror with my like bald spots and like honestly, gender euphoria. And I it was fantastic.
that's beautiful.
Yeah. Sometimes you
That's
just need
so
a bad haircut
beautiful.
and some chocolate milk.
Honestly, yeah. Like when I'm like feeling ugly, I'm like at least I look like an ugly guy, and
Mm,
that's enough for me sometimes.
yeah.
Um, gosh, like I really don't like I'm really trying to rack my brain. I feel like my life is just like gender joy at this point. But
That can be your answer. That's fine if nothing
I,
springs to mind. You're
yeah,
so
nothing really
perpetually in
does.
the state of it that it doesn't singular moments don't even stand out.
I suppose. I mean, I guess okay, I will share this one thing. Like my dad, like a I have like a tumultuous relationship with him, but there's this one memory that I have that's really special. And I came out as trans when I got to all women's college in Oakland, and it was like the first week, and I was like, oh, why is everyone saying like we're strong, proud women, and all of a sudden I want to barf. So then I then I was like, okay, I have to like tell my parents. And my dad lives in Santa Barbara, so it was like 6 hour drive. So I was like, I'm just gonna drive down and tell him in person. And so I drove down with a friend of mine, uh, and I remember like pulling up and then being immediately just like overwhelmed. And I was like, Dad, we need to go on a walk. And he was like, okay. And we didn't do that. So that was weird. And then we were walking through my childhood neighborhood and we sat down on a curb and I was like, I told him that I was trans and that I was going to like pursue hormones and stuff. And he just sort of like sat there and listened and then was just like, well, I always wanted a son. So that's fine. Okay. And I was like, cool. So we're good. And from that second on, he never once misgendered me.
Oh,
Never. Not once. And that's
that's
weird.
amazing.
To just like flip a switch like that was like, that's impressive. But I really do
Wow.
think
Yeah.
that like something clicked for him where all of these questions that he had, like about me as a kid, like while I was growing up, like why was I the way I was, why did I want to dress up as a plumber for two Halloweens in a row and then Elvis the next Halloween? What was that? All of these like questions that he had were finally like answered, I think, in that moment. And then it was just like, oh, okay, cool. So I just love that memory.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful memory. Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I honestly could talk to you forever, but for the interest of us staying in our allotted slot, just as the final thing, what's for people who are listening, what's the best way to support you in your various endeavors?
Well, I think like keep up with the band. We have an Instagram that we're trying to grow. It's the Pussy Boys with no U, so it's like the Psy Boys.
We will
Um,
drop it in the show notes, as they say, or however these things work.
Perfect. And then yeah, we're about to launch this shirt, and I'm really excited about it.
It's very
So
cool.
if you and all of the profits that are coming from this shirt go into the band fund that we're going to use for like recording music and paying producers and stuff like that. So we're going to be like pushing this a lot um, in the next whatever few weeks.
Very
So
cool.
and then yeah, like buy my merch, my pussyboyapparel.com. Support our collaboration, and yeah, just like keep up with all
Keep
this.
keep up with the peeps. Try and keep up with Ezra. It's difficult to do. We're all clinging on by our fingernails.
Sure, yeah, just Instagram is the best place.